All right, we can get started. And I apologize in advance. There's a massive hornet that somehow got into my room and is flying around my head here. So trying to avoid getting stung. Okay, so just as a reminder to folks, please, if you want, add your name to the meeting notes and anything else you want to add as an item for the agenda. And yeah, Preston, and yeah, so just as also a reminder, this meeting is being recorded. It'll be uploaded to YouTube shortly after. And also this meeting, your participation in this meeting is an agreement to abide by the OpenSSF Code of Conduct. Okay. So I know we have something from Jeremy, a presentation on SLSA using Oris at Microsoft. And but before we do that, are there any are there any other sort of big updates that folks wanted to bring up? Anything anything critical? The only thing from my end is I saw that Aldolfo, aka Perko, released his and I apologize if I butcher the name, Teholete tool, which is it's a salsa builder. And I know that at some point we want to see if he can give us a demo of that tool, because that tool is it seems like a sort of a generic salsa builder, and we're wondering if there's anything that like we can collaborate with some of the existing sort of GitHub builders. And,
yeah, I think he's out on PTO right now, but
okay.
That is there's a PR that was open to donate that to the Kubernetes project. Our intent is to use it within the release process for just general Kubernetes artifacts.
Cool.
We are going to initially put it into some other repos. I just started working on trying to add it to our BOM repo. So we're going to try it out on the baby projects before we move on to the bigger ones.
Cool. And so is it mostly and to be clear, I know nothing really about it. Is it mostly a is it mostly a tool for stuff like building Kubernetes? As in, like, did it come out of building Kubernetes and has mostly been focused on the Kubernetes build stack, or is it more generic?
It's more generic. It's aimed at just being generic to work in GitHub Actions or Google Cloud Build, and kind of working in the sense that it works around the build process. So it starts, build process happens, it interrogates what happens to generate the artifacts afterwards. I think we did a demo of it at one of the SIG release meetings, maybe last month. I will go and dig up I'll find the recording, whichever meeting we did that in, and I'll drop it into the meeting notes here.
Cool. Yeah, that would be great. Yeah, any other updates, interesting tools that folks found? All right, over to you, Jeremy.
All right, cool. Let me see if I can share my screen. Okay, so there was an ask in Slack, both on the CNCF Slack and in the SLSA tooling channel, from Sean. I don't know if Sean's on the call right now. Oh yeah, there you go. Asking about Oris and OCI artifacts work that had just merged in to the OCI spec. And we've actually been investigating that ourselves internally to Microsoft, kind of doing some dog fooding on like seeing what the spec looks like, kind of trying out the tooling that existed. and then trying to figure out what we want to do with our internal pipelines. So my team publishes all the open source that we consume within Azure. So we build things from upstream, like Kubernetes and lots of other projects. And we publish those containers and binaries like kubectl into internal registries. As part of that, we and the ongoing supply chain efforts and stuff. It is, like we're trying to figure out how we want to publish and distribute SBOMs for the things we're doing. We're trying to figure out what the right place for us to land SLSA or something else. There's lots of internal discussions about what the right thing for us to use it is for that. But we have implemented some workflows just to kind of show what it might look like if we're going to consume that tooling. So I just wanted to show that, and then we can use that as like a discussion point if anybody has questions. Steve Lasker wanted me to come to kind of represent things. He's on vacation, but I think there's general interest in any kind of collaboration that can happen with the OCI artifact spec stuff. ORAS itself is not implementing the OCI spec yet. It's still implementing the artifact spec that was before proposal E and stuff. But there's work in flight right now to start moving that plus ACR, which is our container registry, to implement that interface with that spec. So let me share, and then we can take a look at what we're doing so far. Okay, so let me know if that text is big enough. Okay, so the ORAS tool implements mostly what the OCI artifact spec looks like. And in particular, it's leveraging the refers or the subject piece of that. So you can put an artifact into a registry, and then using the refers or the subject, you can associate that or refer it to something else. So we're taking advantage of that for our distribution of the evidence that we're producing for the containers. So if we take a look at the Kubernetes API server as an example, so this is just one thing that we're building. We publish things to ACR and they get onboarded into MCR. So we're able to copy the things back and forth to different registries. But this is the 125.0 AMD 64 container that was built. And we run that, we'll get back that image, and then we can see all the things that we've attached to it. So we're building an in toto provenance file, we're a bare minimum kind of provenance file for the thing we're building. That's still a work in progress. We are generating an SPDX BOM for that. And then we're signing the container itself. And then we're also signing those two artifacts. So the spec is great because it allows you to associate things in multiple levels, right? Like we can associate this provenance file with the container image. We can also sign that thing and then associate the signature with the provenance file. We can associate the signature of the SBOM with the SBOM, and then the SBOM is associated with the image itself. We can grab the blob and take a look at what it looks like, so you can see what that kind of looks like in terms of. Oops, it's not going to work. Need an ampersand. The wrong thing. Registry. Hold on a second.
Are those blobs or manifest?
They are. Oh yeah. Sorry. Right. Haven't had enough coffee this morning. Sorry. I think if I pull it, it'll make the registry load it. I think there's a bug with this in MCR.
Well, for Crane to do it, Crane would need to know to push the accept header.
Yeah. Okay.
And
so then, so there's the provenance file, right? And look at the provenance file. It's just the blob that came back for all the things that we built. But if we do that again, think if I get the blob now, it should be good. I just did this upstairs. Yeah, so there, I loaded it. Okay, so the spec looks, the thing we push to the registry looks like that. It's artifact type, and then the blobs that are associated with it. So that's the actual JSON file that we pushed. And then this is the bit that relates the two together. So this can really point at anything, right? It's just pointing at a digest that's in the registry. So it works at multiple levels. You can do things at layers if you wanted to do that, I assume. We're going to experiment with that pretty soon. But it's been working pretty well for us. We're starting to do some experiments with consuming these resources, like inside of AKS. That's really early work right now, so it's not gotten much past the kind of proof of concept stage. But it seems like it's been a good way for us to distribute these sets of evidence along with the containers that we're publishing. And the fact that we can sign those things and associate the signatures back in the same way has been pretty nice. So I can do, I can validate those things pretty easily too. This is all signed with Notary, of course, because Microsoft. So validates that. And if I try to use a different cert, then it'll bomb out. Yeah. Signed by an unknown certificate. Cool. Yeah, so we're doing that for the containers right now. We're trying to figure out how we want to do this with binaries too. So we do publish, like, we do build the kubectl binary. We do publish a couple of other binaries for other projects. And right now they get pushed to a storage account. We're considering whether we want to use registry to distribute those as well, because it would allow us to do the same kind of attachment of evidence along the way. Yeah, so I guess that's all I had to kind of show. What were folks, I didn't get to come to the meeting last week, but I saw you discussed the artifact stuff a little bit. So I was just curious, like, what areas folks were interested in collaborating with a project, or areas of interest.
I'm curious on this, if they start publishing you're talking about adding this, like the Kubernetes images, things like that, they're published on a different registry, right?
Yeah, so these are our internal images. We don't consume upstream artifacts directly. We build everything from source and republish it internally. Like, just getting rid of the dependency on external third-party things is always a good thing for first-party services. Like, when we want to run our stuff, it would be bad to necessarily have a dependency on Google or Docker.
So we won't see this up on the upstream Kubernetes images.
I don't think we'll see like this specific thing. We have discussed what we want to do with the upstream Kubernetes things, and whether we use Cosign to do that, because Cosign has the ability to also publish SBOMs and other pieces of evidence along with the tooling. That does not implement the OCI spec yet. I don't know if they have intentions to migrate to that or not, but it works in a it works in a kind of similar way, right? Like, you're getting, I mean, it works in a way that, like, it's generating a tag that associates the two back and forth. But Adolfo and I were discussing whether we wanted to do that for the upstream artifacts. We hadn't done that yet, but I think we want to be able to get to a point where we can possibly distribute those things as well.
Yeah, proposal E was kind of a merge between what Cosign's doing and what Auras was doing. And so it's the reason I'm asking about the registries is just the thought process there was that the thing that Cosign brought to the table is that it worked with any registry server.
Yeah.
And I'm worried that some of this stuff right here is only going to work on MCR.
So this specific version, yeah. Do you think that the other
with stuff that came out of OCI will work on any registry?
Yeah. So the intent is that we're going to move our stuff to use the OCI spec as well. Like, we did this before that merged into into the spec.
Yeah, I think that's that's very cool. It looks super useful. So is there any client-side tooling for automatically uploading pairs of things like artifacts and attestations?
I don't think so yet. Mostly because this is so new. I don't think anybody's built tooling that does that. We actually we have. So everything that happened. Let me share my screen again. So everything that's populated here came from internal tooling that we have for our publishing process. We've been discussing open sourcing some of that stuff. It's pretty specific to our workflow right now, but this was all done using the ORAS Go library, and the notary stuff is implemented a little differently, but it's not using that ORAS tool specifically. So for publishing, we've implemented that. We've been discussing, personally, I think that having multiple tools is useful, but also it's not the greatest experience. So if you want to consume these things and do any kind of verification on them, I think it would be maybe better to have a supply chain tool that kind of work with those things, like cosign. You can pull those things, and you can verify those things. You can do the things you need to do with that tool. Right now, this tooling is kind of disjoint. We've integrated it into our internal AZCU tool that we use, but I think this is still at such a nascent point that there has for the OCI stuff in specific. I don't think there's any tooling yet.
Yeah, we're quite literally going to be pushing a release candidate tag here in a couple hours, so it's still very new on that side. What I have seen from the community is if you're generating something like an SBOM, you can generate that to a file, and then you can upload it with an ORS or Crane, or right now I've got the Reg client tool over there that does have the new spec implemented in it. So if you want to try that out, that one exists as well. So it's a two-step process. It's not a one-step process in terms of attaching the SBOM to it. You have to generate the SBOM and then upload it yourself with another tool. And I'd like to see some of the generators start embedding this directly in so that they can just say, I've scanned the image. I'm going to push the SBOM right next to the image.
Yeah, and that's what we're doing internally for our tool. I have to get permission to show that, since that's internal developed, but I can come back and show that off if folks are interested. And that's essentially what we're doing. We build the images to TARs locally, we scan those, and then when we push everything, it goes as one big blob of things together. We push the image, we push the things that are associated with it, the signatures go along with that, and it's kind of one operation.
Got a talk that I gave at the Open Source Summit in Austin, talking about trying to get us to use the OCI layout a lot more. And I think it's going along with what you're saying, using the tar file. I build the image to the local directory. It's like a tar format, but it's just expanded on the file system. And then do all the SBOM generation, signing and everything local in there, and then push it all up to the registry at once. So if anybody's interested in that, that video is up online as well. Yeah,
I think that's a great approach to go with. We actually saw that after, we've implemented all of this stuff for a while. And we saw that video, and it kind of gave us some validation. This approach is pretty good.
The downside is that some of the tooling out there still embeds things like that reference name in the image in some of its metadata. So specifically with cosign, when they sign something, they say, I'm signing this image. And so if you sign something on localhost, it's going to get pushed up to whatever registry is saying, hey, this image was localhost. And it gets confusing for end users saying, hey, I didn't pull localhost, I pulled something from upstream. Michael, you're still entertaining us. We're having fun watching.
Yeah, I opened up the window. I'm hoping it understands that you could. Okay, it found its way to the window, and it's almost out. And once it gets
this
out,
means he's calling his buddies.
That's great. I said, joke's on you. Here comes his friends.
Yeah, that's.
This guy's got air conditioning.
Yeah, exactly. Let's see. Well, I'll get to that whenever he's ready to leave. Cool. So sorry, I missed the demo. I will probably I will watch the recording later. But
We're just sorry we didn't get to see you running around the back of the office with a newspaper, like swinging like a madman.
oh, given how big this thing is, he can leave on his own terms. But okay, cool. So are there any other topics for discussion? Anything else that folks wanted to bring up? And I will share pictures to the Slack in a little while.
Make sure to zoom in and share the hairspray on it, whether or not it improved the hairstyle or not.
Okay, I don't know why it was crawling on the window and decided not to leave. All right. Well, I'm gonna go take care of this. If I guess I'll see you all next week. Unless there's anything else folks wanted to bring up.
We hope we do see you next week.
Yes.
All
All right. Have a
Take care.
good weekend, everybody.
Bye.